And we are back. We're back with another episode. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so today, everybody, we're back with, of course, another podcast, and we're delving into something that I think will really just connect with so many people on their bodybuilding journey right now. We have Fiona Fleming here, who is
Hi.
one of my wonderful clients, but also I want to just talk about this as Fiona is currently in her peak week for her very first show. And today's podcast really is about opening up that journey with you, Fiona, and talking
Mhm.
about lots of different things. And for the listeners, this podcast is all about bodybuilding for the first timer. And we have
Mhm.
somebody who's been through the whole thing and is 4 or 5 days out now. So we're in
Yeah.
the first beginning part. We're on day 2 of depletion. And I think there's just so much great stuff. And Fiona, you're such a wee inspiration to lots of people. So
Oh, thank
welcome.
you. Thank you. Thanks.
So I guess the first question is, how are you feeling? You're here.
Just now, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Just anxious a wee bit getting everything organised for like travelling down, going for show day. So I think once all that's done, I'll be able to relax and enjoy it. But I'm super excited. Like I can't wait. It's been a long time coming, as you know yourself, Steph. Like I'd prepped for last year, and due to COVID and things, it never went ahead. So kind of a very short sort of off season I had, and then straight back into prep again. And originally it was March I was supposed to be doing. That got delayed again. So it's been a long time coming.
100%. I think you, out of all people, and I think so many people will obviously, feel this, but you've been
Hmm.
gunning and gunning and gunning and gunning for it last year. And then the date was just taken away.
Yeah.
And you were literally, it wasn't even 2 weeks out. It was,
uh
you were just about to step on stage. And
Exactly.
it was a real, for those of you who maybe follow Fiona's journey, she did her own mini show day in her living room with a bottle of
Yep.
champagne. I don't know if anyone's seen
Yeah.
that. If you have, you need to go
Yeah.
check it out. We had to really focus on channeling our mindset, not for disappointment, but for an opportunity to go away, get better, and come back in.
Hmm.
So, how did you manage that? And I guess, what have been some of the challenges you've faced? Obviously, the one you've just told us about is massive, but
Yeah.
what have some of the challenges you faced, or what have you learned from this whole process to the stage?
I think it's just, I think during prep, I've heard people talk about this, but it's as if things happen like to test you, to try and stop you from doing what you want to do. And I just feel like there's been one thing after the other. But again, I love the training. I find the dieting, I love it all. So I just keep going. And last year, I don't know, I think it might have been a wee bit of a blessing in disguise that it didn't go ahead because it's made me a stronger person and everything that I've faced. There's been a few times I've been like, oh my God, I can't do this because so much happened. I've ended up having to move house twice, had loads of stuff happen, but I'm not letting I'm so determined. I'm not letting anything get in the way of this because I just want to do it so much. So I've just kept on plodding along and just doing the best I can. And I've obviously with lockdown as well and not having a gym, I had to do a setup in my garden. So I was doing the training outside. But I think last year, when I prepped for last year, it was a wee bit easier because I was off work because of lockdown. So basically, that was all I was doing was kind of training. And then I've been back at work, so I've been like working 37 hours a week. I've had to move house. I've had all these things happen, but to me, training is just my vice. Like it's just in my routine. It's just part of my life, and I just love it so much. And I'm just determined to do this. So it's I've just kept going, really.
Because Steph and I said last time when we spoke to Rob, do you find that having that date as like a definitive goal that actually it's almost like you're in that tunnel to the show day
Mhm.
and all of these other things happen, but you can bat them off and
Yeah,
because you've got that focus there and it almost keeps you going and Steph,
yeah. I think bodybuilding and having Steph and Andy and I think it's just made me deal with things differently. Like actual Negative things that happen, I've been able to change the way I respond to them and turn them into a positive, and actually see them as something that's challenging me and something that I can get through, instead of just letting it knock me down and just being like, oh, I can't do this anymore, because that's what I would have been like before, and just get through it now. And not even just the check-ins, like Steph and Andy are there for me anytime, and I can be quite a stress head at times, so getting that bit of reassurance and being able to just send a wee WhatsApp, and it just makes all the difference, honestly. Like, some weeks, if you had a bad week, if you have a bad week and you have your check-in, and you just feel so much better after it, because they just offer you so much reassurance, and like you're doing well, and you're where you're supposed to be, and it's just great support. Like, I definitely couldn't have got this far without them, so I'm so grateful.
I think like one of the things that obviously I've got the benefit of knowing your process
Hmm.
behind for the listeners as well. One of the things that's been really amazing about you, Fiona, is you have a resilience that I see in a lot of competitors who are much further down the line than you, who have maybe had experiences like you've had this year, and you've just reeled some of those off. And guys, for
Hmm.
anyone listening, like Fiona's downplaying this. She's been through some real toughies, ones that would literally make or break a prep, that you could quite
Hmm.
easily take a step away from and go, do you know what? No, no, I can't deal with this and do this goal. And I think something that I always talk about with anybody who comes into the sport is, before you come in, is having those expectations
Yep.
set that anything can potentially happen.
Yeah.
And are you prepared for, if you're, 12, 14 weeks in, are you prepared for suddenly having to move house? Are you prepared for potentially having a health scare? Are you prepared for maybe a traumatic event to happen? And how do you think you might react or respond to those things when you're in the prep? And you never really know. And I think you've really taken this approach that, do you know what? Nothing
Nothing.
will enter
Nothing.
my sphere, regardless of what it is, to stop me doing this goal, whereas you could have crumbled. And I guess
Yeah.
my question to you would be, what is it about this goal that's so important to you? Is it the end game of getting a trophy, or is this something for you? Because I know what the answer is to that, but I'd like you to try and explain that to other people.
It's because thought that I thought that I never would be able to do it, and
Yeah.
that's my reason, really, because I never had the confidence to do something like this, and I never ever thought in a million years I would be able to do it. And I told myself for years that I would never be able to do anything like this. And the more I told myself I wouldn't be able to do it, the more I wanted to do it, and the more I thought, do you know what, I can do it. I just want to do it. It's for me. It's really for me. It's to prove to myself that I can do what I want when I put my mind to it. Really.
It's very
Yeah.
exciting, isn't it? Like it's
And I don't want to come on here and start talking about all the problems I've had, because I've had so much going on, but I don't want people to feel sorry for me. That's like, I don't, because everybody has their problems through preps, and it has been hard, and it could have easily knocked me down. I'm just, like I say, it's just, I'm just so determined. Like, I think I kept telling myself I couldn't do it, and the more I told myself I couldn't do it, the more I was determined to do it. So that's really, really my
that's
reason.
gold as well, though, isn't it? To even
Um,
for you to say, do you know what? I don't want people to feel sorry for me, because that is definitely something as a first timer. I've mentioned it before several times that at the start I was like, why is, why aren't people eating like me? Why don't people care about their body composition?
mhm.
Why are people having takeaways? Why are people going out?
Yeah.
And all of these questions, and I'm thinking, but I found the path of bodybuilding. Doesn't everyone feel this way? And they don't. But if you're doing it for
Mhm.
yourself, so as your preps go on and what have you, you realise just do it for you. These
You just do it
Yeah,
for
it
you.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter, really it doesn't matter what other people are thinking, what people say. If you've got those intrinsic reasons and finding your why,
Mhm.
those things,
Exactly.
it's almost like you said earlier, those things are sent to try us, they're sent to challenge us. It
That's
builds
right.
even more character into your journey.
I don't know if people know, but I kind of came from, I was always I liked going to the gym before I got into
Mm.
CrossFit. I had a bit of a bad relationship. I'll cut a long story short. I had a bit of a bad relationship, and I kind of let myself go a wee bit. And then I got into CrossFit. Well, I had a personal trainer and I used to train in the local park. I got right into it and I started seeing progress. And my personal trainer at the time said, "Look, I think you'd really love CrossFit." So she took me along to a CrossFit gym and I absolutely loved it. So I started doing that for like 2 years. And my coach at the time, my CrossFit coach at the time, she stopped doing CrossFit and she got into a bit of bodybuilding just kind of as a hobby, just to see what she could do. And she was like, "I think I'll do a wee 10-week block with some clients if you'd like to try it." So I tried a wee 10-week block and I absolutely loved it. That's when I seen the biggest change in my physique. And for 2 years, I had busted my ass doing CrossFit, like all this cardio. And the minute I start bodybuilding, I'm like, wow, look at me.
Cardio is the devil.
So that's when I was like, yeah. And that's when people were saying, "Oh, do you think you would do it seriously? Do you think you would compete?" And I was like, me on a stage in a bikini? No chance, no chance. And then the more I watched bodybuilders, the more I kind of learned a bit more about it. I was like, do you know what? I think I could do this. I really do. And then I just started doing bits in my garden, and then I was like, right, I need to get myself a coach. I need to get myself a coach. So I was on my laptop for a good couple of weeks, and I was researching coaches and looking up different people, and I found Steff and Angie.
And the seed was sown.
Honestly. Best thing I've ever done, because you know what, honestly, the progress that I've made in such a short space of time is crazy. Like, if you look at my photos, not even just my physique, but my confidence, everything about me is just totally changed. And I just feel like, you know yourself, Steph. Like, I used to come on at first and it was like a video check-in. I never even had the confidence to do
Yeah.
that. I couldn't even come on a video and speak. That's how bad it
Yeah, I
was.
mean, you're
And
just
now,
a
like,
completely different person from top to bottom. And
I feel as if I'm on top of the world. I can do
I
anything
So
know, I
now.
true,
mean,
Steph. So true.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the confidence that you can get from this journey, if done the right way, and of course, having good people in your corner and things like that. And, I always, when
Mhm.
I work with people like you, Fiona, who I can see this massive amount of passion and enthusiasm and want and drive to go for this goal. And I remember that feeling like it was yesterday, that first time I
Yeah.
experience. And I love being part of that journey because we can help guide that experience, having learned from the mistakes we've made, and make sure you guys don't make them, and watch you totally grow and have that
Yeah.
enjoyable chance to showcase, which a lot more than just the physique on stage. I think that's where I'm
Yeah.
coming to with this, that a lot of people sometimes come into this and go through the first timer prep and focus so much on the aesthetic that they maybe they haven't reflected, or maybe they don't realize how much more you can get from this journey. And sometimes it just takes
Mhm.
somebody from the outside in to put that side on it and say, you know what, this journey is not just about you getting into the best shape of your life. It's about you
Mhm.
beating that mindset you had back there when you said you couldn't. It's about,
Yeah.
harnessing like little gems of discipline that you don't realize you have. And
Yeah.
then suddenly you wake up one day and you
Mhm.
go, you know what, regardless of bodybuilding, I can do this, I can do that, I can go and do this.
I
Because
can
now
do it.
you've
Yeah.
you've found
Mhm.
something in yourself that's so valuable. And I think I always talk to people or my clients or even myself, what if I'm going into a prep, what value do I want out of this? Yes, I want to get up there and show my physique. But what
Mhm.
else can we
Mhm.
get from this to really think, do you know what, that's the best thing I've ever done,
Mm.
regardless of what
Yeah.
happens at the end of it?
You're so right,
Yeah.
because getting on the stage is the icing on the cake for me. Like, I've already won, like, in my eyes. So this is just a bonus, and I don't have any expectations. My main goal is to get up there and just enjoy myself. And then if anything happens, it happens, and that's great. But getting on that stage is a complete win for me. Like, I'm so looking forward to getting glammed up as well. It's been a long time coming since I've had a bit of makeup on,
Yeah,
so
could I
Exactly.
well,
I'm looking
I
forward
guess
to
both
that.
of you, could I ask you a question about? So I met a girl today, Victoria, and she's been listening to the podcast and watching the videos. And we were
Yeah.
talking about, how would you potentially look at transitioning from gym training into going into competing? And Steph, you probably do
Mhm.
come across this decision with people that you take on the books for competing. So she's been training in the gym for a bit, and in her mind, she thought, okay, so I would need to go into like an off-season phase before I would go into a prep. So then you're looking at potentially maybe a couple of years till you actually compete. And I personally, I actually went off the back of not much weight training straight into a prep to see where I got to, see what I looked like on stage, how much muscle mass I had, see if I actually liked it for a start. And then I went into my first sort of productive off season. So how did you make that transition? Were you already quite lean and then you went into your first prep, or did you?
I think at the beginning, when I first started with Steph and Andy, I was quite lean, and I was lean, and I don't think I was eating enough food because I was doing sort of bodybuilding and I was still doing
Yeah.
CrossFit. So, but I think we kind of put the calories right, we put the calories
Okay.
up, and kind of put on a wee bit, and then I had a goal for it was a mini cup, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Because I'd booked a shoot in October time last year.
Okay.
Because actually, my goal wasn't even to compete last year. My goal was this year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I done the mini cut for the photo shoot and I went up to meet Steph for my very first posing class, and Steph's like, "You look amazing, you're ready." And I was like, "Oh
What
my
do you
god."
mean?
So that's when I decided last year to do a show.
Yeah.
It's funny
So
you
yeah,
say that
just went
actually,
and done it.
because I said to Victoria, you could actually prep for a shoot if you just want to see what you look like.
Yeah,
There is,
I think that's a good
yeah, there's
idea.
so many options. I think sometimes you sort of look online or whatever and see other people doing things and you think there's only one option, but actually there is quite a few.
Hmm.
Do you have this conversation a lot, Steph, with sort of first?
Yeah, all the time. And especially the clients who come and say, I have been training for X amount of time in the gym. I'm really looking forward to that next goal. I've been maybe dipping my toe in watching different things and it's becoming interesting. And it's at that point that I think there's this is a coach's discussion. So I speak about this a lot with other coaches about when becomes the right point for kind of a general lifestyle client or a person who's been enjoying the gym for a while to cross over into the competitive realm. And for me, again, it comes back to two things. Like, of course, there has to be an analysis of the physique because there's some points where you're just not ready to go there yet. But maybe it is a case of the balance of the shape is there, but it needs another year of off season, or we need some time. And at that point, it's not really even an off season; it's just starting to put the muscle foundation down.
Yeah.
And then other times it's the person, maybe the physique is ready, but are they ready to give the commitment? And that's where the expectation stuff comes in. Are they ready to give the commitment to this goal? Because a lot of people don't realize what's involved and how it completely
Yeah.
takes over your life for 12 months, potentially.
Hmm.
Yeah, I always love that discussion because I think you never want to dampen someone's aspiration because you always want to say there's a potential to do something. But as long as you're being realistic with timeframes, and if a coach says to you, yep, let's get you on stage right now, and maybe you've only been in the gym for a year, I'd be very skeptical of that. I'd be very skeptical of doing that. If a coach is
Yeah.
saying to you, how long have you been in the gym, and then picking apart the physique and saying what's involved and telling what expectations are and everything, and saying maybe let's get you into what I technically call as like a primer phase, where we've physically put the body into a routine structure to see how they get on with that first. And maybe that is for a photo shoot, or maybe it is for something that's a little bit more
Bit more
of
level.
a rigid goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get on with that
Mhm.
first.
Yeah.
And if they feel, do you know what, I can deal with this routine, then I feel like they've got more of a foundation to take on that vehicle that is what you now know as prep fee, which is, a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
other level.
Whole other
There's,
level.
there's all the little
Whole other
things like
level.
when you go into a prep, you wouldn't have things like an off-plan meal. Ideally, well, I'm saying that for me, but stuff
Yeah.
like that becomes, it's not realistic to really do that if you're in a competition prep. Whereas if it's a photo
Mhm.
shoot, because you've got things at weekends or your social, then actually it's not massively, detrimental to go out for a nice meal, or you can be more
Mhm.
flexible. But I definitely think that's something that we do need to keep hitting home, is that if it's a competition prep, it's a different level, isn't it?
Oh,
Oh, a whole other level.
so Fee, what do you,
A whole other level.
when you think of it as another level, what has been the difference between, say, some of your other CrossFit goals or your photo shoot goal, for example, and the prep? What
Mhm.
are some of the differences?
I would say mostly, like Sarah was saying, it's the diet. The diet, 'cause you can't be as relaxed. You need to be super strict as well. Obviously, with CrossFit, you need to have the high calories because you're doing so much output, so much cardio, rowing and running, loads of all that stuff. So you can get away with it's not even about CrossFit's not really about how you look anyway. It's more about being fast, and you need the extra calories for that. So it's a totally different ball game. Totally different ball game. And I don't know if people know this. I'm a single parent. I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and I'm just going to give her a wee shout out because she's been a great support to me, and she's really good, and she helps me in the house because obviously I'm sitting with my chicken and rice and stuff like that, and I make her dinner as normal, but she doesn't like ask me why. She understands now. She didn't at the start, but now she gets it, and she's like, "Mum, you can't have that," and she'll put things away and things like that, or like when I finish work and I'm really tired and I've still to go to the gym and see I've forgot my gym bag or something, I phone her and she's like, "Mum, I'll bring you your gym bag out so you don't even need to come in the house." And you just go straight to the gym. So she's been great. And my mum and dad, my mum's great. They've kind of found it a wee bit hard to get used to. Like my dad, if I was round at theirs or something, he'd be like bringing out some food and stuff and still offering me it. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And my mum's like, "What are you doing?" Like she knows, like she kind of gets it now. So it's good to have that kind of support and people that understand how strict you have to be.
Didn't you tell me as well, Fee, 'cause we've started talking on Instagram and stuff. Didn't you say that
Yeah.
she said you're going to be famous now you're on the podcast with Steph and I?
Yeah, so when I told her that I'd been asked to do this, she's like, "Oh, Mum, you need to do
So
it." She's telling all her friends as
I
well.
don't know about you, but that
My
is
mum's
just,
telling
it's so nice to nourish that. Like, I'm the same with my mum. She
them.
thinks I'm like this famous bodybuilder. You know, every little opportunities
Yeah,
that come up, I tell her, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is my daughter." But it's so nice to like nourish that and be like, you know what, I'm making
yeah.
other people proud. It doesn't need to be your main focus, but it's just such a nice thing that comes in with the journey.
Yeah.
It's funny because Jay is my daughter, and she talks about you guys a lot. Like she was talking, she said about you this morning, Sarah. She's like, "Oh, I think Sarah's lovely,"
Oh,
and she got on really well with Steph, and she kind of does a bit of dancing, so she knows that Steph comes
ah.
from a dancing background, and so she's really interested in all of that. So I'm hoping that she'll follow in my footsteps and go to the gym when she's old enough.
It's
So
even showing that level
it's
of
good.
discipline. You know, it's difficult, I'd imagine, being a parent because sometimes your child might not know what direction they want to take, and it's not necessarily that
Exactly.
they have to be sort of a bodybuilder, but if they see you, you know, watching what you eat and including different things in your
Hmm.
diet, training, and things like that, it just rubs off a little bit on them realizing, you know, there is certain things you can do with your body, and it is educating them as well,
Yeah.
which is nice. And you know, we've spoken before, Fiona, about when you go into competing, your relationships do change. Maybe that's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
we could delve into if you're happy to do that, Fiona, where
Yeah.
friendships also change.
That's right.
It can be quite a hard pill to
Oh,
swallow, can't it?
100%. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't really have any friends that totally get what I'm doing, if
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Even my fitness friends don't get what I'm doing. So to have you guys and Zoe, and like I've met people online that have been huge supports,
Mhm.
more supportive than anybody, and I've not even met you in
Yeah.
real life. And I'm so grateful for that because I can come on and I can like tell you what's going on, or you ask how I am, and you just get it. Like
Mhm.
you get what I'm going through and the things that you face, and it's the support. The support is amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's so good to hear that as well, because I think for anybody listening who, you know, thinks, "Oh, I can't prep because I've got kids," or "I can't prep
Yeah,
because I've
yeah.
got, you know, a job and nobody really understands what I'm doing." Like Fiona, Fiona, on top of doing her prep, has got shift work. So anybody who's a shift worker, I get this a lot. I get this question a lot. You know, oh, can people who have shift patterns that are crazy? You know,
Hmm.
some people might back shift, some people might be on night shift. Can we do
Hmm.
this? And the answer is like 100% yes, you can. It's
Hmm.
just finding, again, it's like finding the best method that's going to work for you from a programming point of
Yeah.
view. But then coming back to that really important question there about how it really does change your dynamic with your relationships. And I think listening to both of you guys, and Sarah, I know we've
Hmm.
touched on this, but listening to both of you sharing this journey with your family, because I'll give you the flip side to my experience. So my mum and dad are very like not, they're not really, they're quite traditional, and they're not
Yeah.
really involved in my journey at all and never have been. And that's okay. I'm accepting of that. But I think what's so awesome to hear is how much your family build you up and give you that kind of like, woo, we're your number one fans. Because that's like, that's just, that makes you feel like you can do it as well, you know. And I'm very lucky. I've got Andrew, so he's like my number one fan. So that's cool. But you've got like, to have your family involved in it means a lot, because family, you want family to value and approve what you do. It's like an intrinsic thing, isn't it? Like deep down, you do. And so when you feel like you're doing something that makes them proud, and Jay is so proud of you, Fee, like your daughter absolutely loves it, and your mum is your number one supporter. Like Fiona's mum has messaged like me as well on the WhatsApp when they've been on the WhatsApp together, being like, this is great, I'm so happy, you know. It's just really nice.
Yeah, she always goes on about my muscle definition, because I think that's, she's like, Fiona, your muscle definition's great.
Your mum calls it muscle, muscle
right,
definition. My mum's like, you really toned, Beb.
My mum comes round to my house because she looks after Jay quite a lot when I'm at work. She's like, do you need some potatoes peeled? And she'll peel my potatoes and she'll cut them into chips, and she'll put them in freezer bags. She'll prep veg for me as well. And
that's
when
great.
I come home, it's like it's all in the freezer. Like, it's great. And she's going to help me do my potatoes for my
that's
well,
what I'm thinking. Steff, have you messaged her to say, can you get the potatoes ready?
I know, but you know what's really funny? Like, exactly. Well, talking about that, I think this will be an interesting point for first timers listening, or anybody listening. You know, well, if you can see her, anybody who's watching and not listening, you'll see that she has ridiculous veins dropping down her arms right now. She's super lean, super lean,
here.
and yeah, I know.
I know.
Look, check out that bad boy.
Hello.
She's day 3.
Is that me?
Sorry, day 2 of depletion, and she's ripped, absolutely ripped. We're coming in for figure this weekend. I kind of wanted to touch on that because we didn't speak about what class you're in, of course. So you're coming in for your first time figure show, and it's the PCA first timers this weekend. And I guess I wanted to ask you to explain, or to tell people, like, how's your diet been? You know, have you enjoyed the diet? And how have you found it sticking to all the food and things? Because I think this is something that a lot of first timers find hard, is sticking to the diet. So, I mean, Sarah have had our own experiences of this. So how have you found sticking to the diet? Because I know what your diet is. So let's chat about that.
It gets harder, like, I'm not going to lie, like when your calories drop down, but like I've always been quite a healthy eater, so I love my food. So I love my chicken and my broccoli, and like I would eat that even if I'm not on prep. But obviously it's like a quarter of the size of the portion as you normally.
Yeah, and
I mean, like, you just need to focus on the end goal. I'm not going to lie, it's really hard because I work in a children's home and I work with people that don't have a clue about bodybuilding. Nobody eats healthy in my work. The children, we try and encourage healthy diets, but we've got a cook who makes homemade cakes, who makes lasagna, like all the meals. The staff in the office, and you're sitting at a computer and there's Pringles, there's dips, there's chocolate, there's cake, and it's just all there. And my colleagues are not forcing me because they don't understand, they don't get it, but like, oh, just have a wee bit, oh, you'll be fine. And I'm like, no, like, I'm fine, honestly, I'm fine, and I'm sitting here with my rice cakes and I'm absolutely fine. I just think of the end goal, but it is hard and the temptation is there. But if you're determined and you want to do well and you want to look good, then you just need to say no, really.
Yeah.
And obviously I've got Jay here, and I encourage Jay to have a healthy diet, but she'll have things like like maybe fajitas or tacos or things like that, and it's tempting because she might leave some, and I need to do the dishes and things like that, but I'm so determined, and I think that's just what keeps you going. Like, and then you know that as well. Like, I'm not going to lie, there's been a couple of times where maybe I have had a wee bit extra, and it just makes me feel rubbish. Like, if I've had a slip up, and very rare, but I know how it makes me feel, so I just don't do it now.
Yeah.
Like, so maybe
And
if I've ate, I like one of the times a few weeks ago, I think I had an extra rice cake, and I just felt
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I just felt
Blows your
terrible
mind,
after it.
doesn't
And
it?
I'm like, I can't, like, and then I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it because it's not worth feeling bad about it. So I just don't do it, and I'm fine. And I know,
Yeah.
like, I keep saying to myself, like, the food's always going to be there. I've got loads of years ahead to sit and eat cake. Like, I can eat cake when I'm old. I don't
I
need
want
to
to
do
get
it just now.
shredded.
It's like, I want to get shredded, yeah, and I want to get shredded. That's my goal. So the cake's always going to be there. And I always say, a second on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. That's what Mum
Oh, that's
says.
been
Yeah.
around for a
And
while, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what my
that's
mum always says, and my mum's like, Fiona, she's like, Fiona, just look at it and see it as lard. So when all my colleagues are in work, when all my colleagues are in work and they're sitting eating their cakes, I just picture them sitting like biting into like a big block of
I
lard,
need to meet your
and I'm
mum.
like, well,
Like,
I don't even want
literally,
that.
she sounds
Keep
like
your
a
cakes to
legend.
yourself.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, just keep your cakes. It's
Do you know
fine.
what? Though? It is
But you
something
know,
you
it's
can do, though, isn't it? It's almost like you can. You've probably had it, Steph, over the years, where you turn your palate to where you need to at the time. No,
you
it's
do,
it's sort of
you
like a.
do. And I always think I'm a bit sadistic with it, right? I go like, because I'll never forget one experience I had where I was in the off. It was when I was working in an office. This was
Mhm.
way back at the very start, and one of my colleagues was giving out cupcakes and stuff in the office and put one on my desk, and I
Yeah,
could see her like watching me, like to see if I
what
was
you're
going
gonna
to eat
do?
this cupcake, and the empowering feeling I get from being able to do what others can't
Yeah,
is really awesome. And I
yeah,
kind of flip it on its head. Like sometimes you can just put it aside, and even though you
yeah.
want it,
Mhm.
and I remember sitting looking at this cupcake thinking, I do really want it. The actual feeling of seeing her face go, oh my God, she's
Mhm.
managed not to eat it,
Yeah.
was so much better.
Yeah, yeah, but it's not even that. They sit and they'll kind of go like, "Why are you not eating it? Why are you not eating it?" And then 2 seconds later, they're like, oh, "I can't even get my belt done. Oh, my jeans are so tight. I really want to lose weight." And but then they walk about like eating crisps and stuff. I'm just like, right,
Yeah, I know. It is a different mindset. I love what you just said there, Fiona, because we speak about this all the time. But the
mm-hmm.
whole stuff is not going to disappear. It's always going to
It's
be
always gonna
there.
be there.
You're not never going to have these foods again. But like for the listeners as well, Fiona is on a carb cycle at the moment. So she's been cycling carbohydrates. She does a high and a low day. She's been doing that for considerable few months. We tweak things when they need to be tweaked. We take the calories out or drop when she needs to drop a bit more, when the body starts to go, okay, I'm quite happy here. We then make a change and we do that all the way through. But I've got your stats in front of me, Fiona, at the moment.
Okay. Ah.
Fiona, you're sitting currently on a 1900 calorie high day and a 1600 calorie low day, right? And you've got she's still eating 220 grams of carbs a day. You're sitting on 140 grams of protein,
Yep.
and you're sitting on 40 grams of fat.
I've
Now,
still got
for
plenty of food.
anybody listening who's ever done anything or has any experience with contest prep, that is absolutely how you should be thinking about it. And everyone's very different. Saying this to prove a point that you can sit there and look like Fiona is,
Mm-hmm.
having done this long term healthily with the right approach, and not have to go into really dangerous realms with ridiculous drops in calories. So
Yep.
it is all
100%.
relative, I'll say that, but I just wanted to sort of almost give you the overview and picture to show you what you've managed to achieve
Yeah.
while still actually being on a really high, healthy, nice diet.
It's funny you
Um,
say that. I know of a girl who prepped for a show, and she messaged me at when I was at 8 weeks, and she said, "How are you feeling?" Because I felt terrible at 8 weeks, and basically I remember watching the kind of thing she was eating, and it was just like plain chicken and like peanut butter, like, and I was like, I've still got like all this veg and rice and everything. Like she was quite shocked at what I was still getting to eat, and she was
mhm,
just kind of eating like plain boiled chicken and things like that, and just like dipped in
yeah,
peanut butter and stuff, and she was literally starving. So it was a totally different way that whoever had coached her, her prep was completely different, and she
yeah,
felt terrible. And I've
yeah.
still
And I
been
guess
feeling great, like still been,
that's it.
yeah,
There's this kind of trendy thing to say, and that I feel anyway. And Sarah, I don't know if you've come across this, but you hear a lot of people talk about, oh my God, it's going to be hell. The last phase of this is going to, like, almost as if they're preempting it
Mm.
before they're even there.
hmm
And it is hard, but I think it can still be really enjoyable
Oh, yeah.
if we're not like in the trenches, or certainly if things have not been taken too low. I don't know what you think about
Yeah,
that,
exactly
Sarah.
the same. From my own experience, like I mentioned earlier, in my first preps, I felt like, people had to feel my pain, because on reflection, I was potentially doing it for too many external reasons as well as internal reasons.
Yeah,
And then the more and more I've gone on my bodybuilding journey, the more I've realized it is so internal for me. And, you know,
yeah,
again, it's independent to you on, what your macros are. And when people say to me, oh, what are your
exactly.
macros? Unless I know them, I won't sort of delve into it, because I don't want someone to go, oh, well, that's what I should be on to lose weight.
Yeah.
And that's what always happens. People compare, and then they
Oh,
think,
I've had,
oh, because this person's doing one thing, I should be doing that too. And that's not the
And
case.
and
Everyone's
every
very
prep you
different.
do is
Yeah,
different, and you, if you carry on your journey, I'm
yeah.
sure you'll find it. My first prep, I did need to go low on the calories, and the expenditure went up quite a
yeah,
lot. But I wasn't a trained individual. I wouldn't class myself, because I'd only done a few months weight training, gone into a prep, whatever. So my body wasn't
mm-hmm,
where it is now. So my body reacts very
mm-hmm,
differently now, having done it for so many years. And you'll find that as well, Fiona. At the
yeah,
moment, you've got your calories at where they are. Next prep, you might be lower or higher. You might be more expenditure. You might be less. I don't know about you, Steph, but Stephen always tries to almost promote getting away with what we can for as long as we can, in regards to, I don't want to be a bag of shit 13 weeks out.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
don't have loads of
100%. Yeah, and I
expenditure
mean,
where I'm like literally can't sit down, my joints are hurting, everything. It's not going to be conducive to you performing on the day either.
no, that's true. And if I come at this from sort of because Fiona's a natural athlete, if I come at from like a natural
Mm,
perspective here, the aim of the game with any natural athlete is to retain as much muscle tissue on the frame over the longest period, so a
yeah.
longer period prep, chipping away to keep that tissue.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to always be a percentage of tissue that you lose in a natural prep, because to get to the levels of lean where
Mm,
Fiona is right now, there is a
of course.
small muscle reduction
Mm-hmm.
on the overall frame, but it's relative to the length of time. And yeah, it's at your where I completely agree with you, Sarah. You try and keep the calories as high as you possibly can, the cardio to a minimum, until you need to kind of almost drop the hammer a
Yeah.
little bit more to pull that extra level in. And that's where you're maybe you're steady, or your hit or something
Mm.
will go up. But
Also, time as
yeah,
well.
and everyone is it's
Yeah.
also about like exactly what you just said, Sarah, which is the level of muscle you have on the frame in the first place is going to determine how much you can eat. Because if you don't have as much on the frame, you're actually probably going to have to take things lower
Yeah.
to get it off. Or if I mean,
It's
it
very
is
dependent,
really
yeah.
very much individual, so it could go into this.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
but
feel as if like I've came in so quickly just recently as well.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you've just gone.
because I still had like I was still kind of on a wee bit higher calories, and I can't remember how many weeks ago, but I was still kind of having a sort of refeed as well on
You were doing the refeed
the
on the
weekend,
Friday
and
and
then the
Saturday.
minute
Yeah,
that came out, and kind of I was just like, it just came
This
in
ties
so
into
quickly.
stress as well,
It was
doesn't it?
yeah,
amazing. I was surprised. I was actually shocked myself at how quickly I came in.
yeah.
But see what you were saying about other people as well. I've had people messaging me on Instagram asking me like what I eat in a day, what my
Mm,
calories are, and what can they eat what I'm eating.
yeah.
I'm like,
It's
no,
not, from the start, you're
like
paying for it.
I'm like a week out of a bodybuilding competition, like, and everybody's different. So no, I wouldn't advise
And
it.
you're paying for a service
Yeah,
because you've decided that this is, a real thing for you, and you want to put monies and effort
Yeah,
into it, and that is bespoke to you. And that's why, coaching, if you're working with someone like Steph does, an individual basis,
yeah,
it's not for you to feel the need to share that. It's your thing, isn't it? And you know,
yeah.
and it is difficult
mm-hmm.
because you want to help people, don't you? You want to guide people and what have you.
You
So
you do, because they were looking for meal ideas and things, and I'm like, it's basically chicken and rice I'm eating,
it's
Yeah,
simplified.
I know. And I think
and broccoli.
yeah, it is so individualized. And like, for example, with Fiona's prep as well, but the food is one component, because yes, you've got a nutrition plan, but Fiona currently, and every other, like all of us do, we have a training program which is built into the nutritional plan because
Yeah.
of the expenditure rate.
Yep.
You've got a cardio protocol which is built into the expenditure rate, which then
Yep.
echoes into the diet as well.
Yeah.
You've then got I schedule posing into my clients' cardio protocols, so there's that. And there's like, there's a lot of different things that are a reasoning to why the diet is a certain way. So just plucking it out there and going, go and eat that. Well, you could, but are you doing the amount that this lady here is doing at this current point in time, or are you not? And what's your intensity like? Because I know what training with Fiona's like, and it's very, very intense. It's all these sorts of things are questions around it. But I think one of the things I think from a first timer point of view is you have the benefit if you're with a coach to learn from the process. Like you've learned so much, Fiona, about your own body and what it can do.
100%.
Because when we trained in the gym the other day, Fiona was flexing in the mirror, right? She was like, oh my God, look at me. And like, she was like rippling around. She had all these like striations across her chest and she looked absolutely amazing. But you turned around to me and you said, I'm just so happy with what I've managed to achieve. I've never seen myself like this. A few years ago, you made reference to your ex, like saying how you looked rubbish, and now you're just this like little powerhouse of a woman. It's like, check me out.
Could you talk to us a bit about when these challenges come up, the stress levels and how that maybe has affected your physique and how you feel, training, nutrition? Is there, the more stressed you are, is there been complications?
That's what, I was actually just thinking about that when you were saying, Steph, about how you factor in posing. Steph and Andy also factor in things like relaxation and giving yourself time to relax and de-stress and
Right.
listen to podcasts and doing your yoga and things like that, and just giving yourself time as well within your program. So that's been really important. So if I have been stressed, I make sure that I'll sit down when I can, I put in my earphones, do some deep breathing, do some relaxation, have a bath. And I find this is a hard thing for me because I'm so stuck for time. Like I am non-stop. I barely sit down. So I need to make time for that, but it's definitely helps because I can be quite a stress head because it's just because of time really. I'm just always racing against time. I've got so much to do. I need to make sure my meals are done. Like obviously I work shifts, so sometimes I work a 2 till 10, and then I'll start at 7:30 the next day. So I need to make sure my meals are done because sometimes I get up before an early shift and I've got 45 minutes of cardio. I need to get the dog out. I've got things to do before an early shift as well. So depending on how I feel the next day, if I finish the early shift and I know how I feel and I listen to myself, and if I need to go home first before going to the gym, I'll go home and I'll maybe have a nap or I'll have a bath and I'll chill out, or I'll go to the gym first and then I'll come home and I make sure I give myself time to just de-stress and just to relax. And that's been a learning curve for me because I'm not great at relaxing, but definitely been beneficial because you can see it in your physique when you've had that time. I've also factored in the guy Alan at the Recovery Lounge, a massage therapist. He's been amazing, and I've been up there every week getting a massage. That's been so beneficial for me. I'm so glad I've made time for that as well. It's definitely, you can see it in my physique as well, having that proper sports massage, and I've been having some cryotherapy and having a sauna at the end, and just taking that time just to sit in the sauna and just de-stress.
Because
Yeah,
it's a
amazing.
lot of people as well with COVID and things. People haven't had a holiday. People haven't had, that time where you just. It's not even necessarily that you have to go away and be an absolute, vegetable the whole time, but even just space,
Even just an hour.
just to get away from, minutia. And it's really good actually, Fee, because you were saying about you've got a couple of weeks off work, and Steph and I have definitely mentioned this before. If you can, getting a week off work before and or after your show, brilliant.
Yeah, because I think I asked you that
Yeah.
a while ago, Sarah. I think I'd said to you, do you think it would be worth taking some annual leave and run up and after? So I've kind of worked it out really well. I've kind of I've stopped at my last shift was on Monday there, and I don't go back to the 12th, so I've got sort of most of my peak week off, and then I've got a bit
Brilliant
of
stuff.
time after it with my family as well, and so yeah, I've kind of worked
Yeah,
it out
yeah.
pretty well.
It's such a good recommendation because even like you said earlier about, there's so much to do on the lead up to peak week. And that's why
Yeah,
it's good, Steph, you do the checklist and things because you can get yourself,
yeah,
you can get
It's a
yourself
big plan.
together and you'll probably start to build up
organised.
your repertoire of bits for your show because you do it. The more you do, it's like I've got a box where I've got all of the even things like some thread in case your bikini splits or all these little
Yeah, do you know what's really good as well, Sarah? Right, well, so I done the prep for last year, so I had
oh
got
yeah,
my case ready, and I had got
She
yeah,
practiced
and I
it.
had got my toiletry bag, and I have got my wee sewing kit, and I've got everything in it that I need, and it's still there. Like I never unpacked
good.
it, so I've got most of it already organised. I've just got a few more wee bits and bobs to get. Then this week's just kind of appointments to get the glow
Yeah.
up. So I'm looking forward to all these
It's so
things.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. So when do you
Mhm.
travel up to, so where is it your show is?
Birmingham, so I'm flying out from Edinburgh on Saturday. My dad's going to give me a lift through to Edinburgh on Saturday, so
And
I'll
is
fly
Jane
from
coming
there.
with you?
And then, no, she's not. She's going to stay with my mum. My mum and dad don't really keep very well. My mum, in particular, she's got an autoimmune disease, and it would have been too much for her to
Yeah.
travel down and wait about and things
Mm.
like that. So they're going to sit and they've got the live link, and they're going to watch me on TV, and then hopefully I'm planning to do a couple of Scottish shows in the future. So hopefully Jay and my mum will be able to come up to the ones that are a bit
Yeah,
closer
yeah.
to home.
That's all.
Yeah. So Fiona's coming down, and we're going down as well. We're meeting at the
Mate,
airport,
honestly, I'm
and
so grateful to have you guys with me because
Excited.
I don't think I could have done it on my own. So having you guys there just means the world.
Well, for you
Means
guys,
the world
isn't it?
to me.
it's really
Yeah,
cool
to
because
be there.
yeah, yeah, it's nice as well because we have another member of our team who wanted to come up and support Fee too. So there's a team of us like
Yeah,
going. Obviously we're going to be there. Client, friends that want to support each other in our team going to be
yeah,
there. We've got the hair and makeup artist coming. Don't wait to do it all. We've got a nice cool apartment, so we're just going to hang out and just do this and have
yeah.
fun with it. And
See what
then
happens.
we had another first timer as
Oh,
well coming down to the show this time round. But and this is a really good important point to make here
Mm.
because this happened to me in 2019 as well. Nicola, who's now we've postponed her show till
yeah.
later, tripped, fell over her ankle about a week and a half to 2 weeks
That's a
ago,
shame.
and completely
Yeah.
wrecked her ankle. It's completely
Mhm.
swollen, and she's in a recovery phase with that. But this stuff
Yeah.
happens, guys, and we had a moment where it was shock. Oh no, what are we
Mhm.
going to do? Is the show still going to be manageable? Is it not? And the best decision was actually no. There's plenty of other
Plenty. Yep.
opportunities through this year. She's coming in really nice. This is a stumbling block, but it meant she had to reevaluate, reassess, and
Mhm.
change. And it's a thing that
Yep.
happens, and it's not one to be disheartened by. It's something to just, again, another stumbling block to accept and then switch gears and change again. So poor Nicola's not coming down with us this time, but next time. But we're still going to go in and do a lot of cheering
Yeah.
for her
It
Definitely.
as
all
well. So
Yep,
comes
and
yeah,
Zoe,
so
she's coming up as well. She got a ticket and she's coming up, so I can't wait to meet her as well because she's been great, like such a great support. So yeah, it's so
yeah,
exciting,
and you end
so
up doing
excited.
it, you do it for you, but then you just have that extra level of, do you know what? I'm meeting people I've never met that have supported me. You're,
Amazing, it's
and you
amazing.
will just immerse so much. It just gets me all like, oh, because it's just so exciting.
Oh,
Like,
I
it's
know,
so nice, and you rarely get to meet people in person that do our thing.
exactly.
And when
Yeah,
you do, like, I'm always like, I just can't wait to be a bodybuilder for the day.
yeah,
It's just like,
I know.
oh,
I know because now Sarah,
yeah,
you're into your
yeah,
prep now again, so it's like exciting because you're in that you've made that transition
there's
mindset.
got like Fit Expo
yeah.
that got postponed. That's
No, that's
almost sort of taken over from Body Power, hasn't it? Because
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what's happening in Body Power now, but Fit Expo seems to be like what everyone's talking about now.
Yeah.
and they've got their show Sunday this weekend, but then the expo's in August, so that's another opportunity for just to be around like-minded people. It is quite rare. You come from a little town or whatever, and you're away from the
Yep.
norm. People are like, oh, that's that girl that bodybuilds.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, that's me. When you go to like shows, you look around and it's like, everyone's eating rice cakes. This is cool.
Not just me.
And it becomes like, I think, I don't know about you, Steph, but you do miss show day sometimes. And if you can be with others that do it and be there for their show day, you still get the same kick.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think now more than ever as well, like people really see the
Yeah.
work that's involved and celebrate that. Because people share their journeys so much online now that you really do see like what some people are doing like behind the scenes to really like you say, Fiona, like this means everything to you. It's like your goal, you've had it in your mind for like over a
Yep.
year, it got taken away, it's now here again, and it's like just sharing that when you get to the venue with like-minded people is so cool. It's so cool. And it's like Sarah and I, like we met in this sport. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have a Sarah in my life. I love having that. And it is good. It is good because, like you say, we've said this on podcasts before, haven't we, Sarah? Where you've got your normie friends, and then you've got your bodybuilding pals, and your bodybuilding pals like have this mutual respect for what you do. You're like, you've done this. I know what that takes, and I see you. I see you. Yeah, it's like it's good. So I think that
totally
when you go into that venue, on Sunday, you're gonna be there with the other girls. I know what you're like. You'll be like chat.
I know. Honestly, I talk for Scotland. You can't get me shut up.
It's so hard to
I love
filter it
that.
though, isn't it? Like when you're around people that just get it, you're like, I just want to talk for hours and hours about bodybuilding and like how weird people think we are, because we don't think we're weird. We think we're normal.
Totally.
Yeah, especially when you've kind of been like obviously I'm at home a lot and I'm at work a lot, and I'm not with people that bodybuild a lot unless I'm in the gym. So and then when I do see people that get it, I'm just like
Have we got time today, girls, to answer a question that Steph, it's a lady, Nicole, that's come back on board with you. So she was a client. She sent me a message on Instagram and it was about peak week. So I think it'd be really cool if we can delve into it. And Fiona, you might be able to add a bit of insight. So and it's nice actually because Steph and I are really enjoying this level of people sending in feedback about how the pods are really helping.
amazing.
So
I've been
questions are a good vibe. So she said, what to do when you're due on your period in peak week and how to stop the bloat and water retention from it. It happens every show day for her. So it's broad and it's not, isn't it, that question?
Yeah.
It is. Well, the first thing to say is that it's super unfortunate it's happened on every single
nightmare.
I mean, what are the odds? What are the odds? Yeah, so there's a couple of things here, and there are various ways you can approach it. So if you're somebody that actually is very, very clockwork, and you know when your period's going to come, and I've worked with people who are very, very lean and still get their period all the way up to back when they're really lean, and I've worked with people whose periods stop, and that's a different story altogether. But if you are somebody that knows it's clockwork, there are a couple of things you can do. If we know that, for example, first of all, you might not want to even have your show or choose a show date that's on that date. Or the other thing, if you're open to the idea, there is prescription medication which you can get from the GP, which will actually immediately stop your period from coming. There's a name for it. I think it's called, and I'm going to pronounce this really wrong, but I think it's called norethisterone.
That's it.
Norethisterone.
That's
Is that the right one?
Yeah, that's the one. Because I've had it
right?
before. I've used it before when I went abroad on holiday, so that I didn't have it on holiday. And like you were saying, it might affect everybody different. It was absolutely fine for me, and it was great.
Absolutely. And what that technically does is you kind of take it for 3 days prior, and it just delays the onset of menarche. So that's one thing which you could talk to your GP about if it was needed. The other thing is if you are somebody who's maybe on a contraception that you still have the period on, like some of the combined pills, you still have the period, but you can manipulate when you take the tablets to maybe again
just keep taking
offset it. And then the other things are, if you don't want to mess around with medication, which a lot of people don't, is that you can reduce the swelling or water retention with
Stress
things like
Yeah.
water. Yeah, exactly. So you can take off the counter herbal or natural supplements to help reduce water retention. There's structured ways you can use that. You can also use just plain vitamin C to help you reduce water retention as well. You might not eradicate symptoms completely, and of course you're maybe standing on stage having to be mid-flow, but there are things that you can do to limit what that looks like to the physique. I had a client very recently actually get on stage and it just cropped up. It came to say hello. And we had inflammation. We managed to reduce the inflammation pretty much everywhere. Where there was still swelling was in the legs. So and it was interesting actually because she'd already done a peak week. The legs were shredded, and when we did this one, there was just a film of water on the legs, and it was purely down to menarche. That was it. And you can't stop what God's intended sometimes. So there's a variety of things that you would do, but the one thing I would say is before you mess around with any medication and stuff like that, there's so many options nowadays to choose shows and decide what you want to do. And if you are someone, like I say, is clockwork, and then try and pick a show that's
I
not
think
going to
there's
be
definitely
right on
merit
that
as
day.
well in when something like that, if it does crop up and there's nothing you can do, if you're not so regular or whatever, is try not to zone in on it too much as well. Because like anything,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
because if you focus anything you focus on and start having sort of a negative connotation with it, I know myself, you can cause almost bloating and water retention from stress.
Don't stress about it. Yeah.
And maybe with medication, I don't know about you, Steff and Fee, if you wanted to try that for a show, if you were going to do the one that sort of stops it, would you say, try that before?
Yeah, I mean, if you have the opportunity to, I think
See
it's always
what it
good to
does
do a
to your
trial run
body.
of anything.
Yeah.
Because there is that adverse effect. Like it may stop your period, but what else is it going to do? It may
because you always get side effects with everything, don't you?
totally. You may actually find you take this medication
So
and you
it's like
still
just
hold
a
water
bit
because
anyway.
you're taking medication. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of because I mean, what would my advice be? I would say let's manage it with subtle natural elements. We can sort it out, and there are also other techniques you can use, but it's all going to be dependent on the person. And I think what you've just said, Sarah, is hit the nail on the head. If you are presented with a situation that's out of your control, the best thing to do is not try not stress and fixate on it, because that is literally that would just make it's like what you give thought to becomes true. You know what I mean? If you think so much about it that it's going to ruin your day, then you'll just build up the stress. Cortisol levels will go through the roof, and you'll just be full of water and stress, and that's not going to do anything. Whereas if you kind of accept it and then just go, do you know what? I'm going to get my feet up. I'm going to keep to my plan. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to speak to my coach. Maybe they've got an idea. E.g., all of this, and that sort of thing will help you keep calm. But it's a very good question, and it's one all of us ladies have to consider, depending on what kind of contraception and things, or if not on contraception, obviously, you've got to contend with. This whole topic actually is one that I'm really interested in because I've got a lot of clients who are on different various medications for contraception, whether that's the coil or whether it's an implant or whether it's the pill, and they all do different things depending on how the hormones circulate, whether they're local or not local around the body. And this is where I think guiding a female does help sometimes, because that stuff is
and there's so many
got a whole world of its own.
complexities to both males and females, isn't there? And we're actually looking forward to Steff and I are going to bring on Andrew, Fiona. It's I haven't, a bit like you, I haven't spoken to him in person, as it were. So even just doing the video would be really cool, because it sounds like he's got a lot to share in regards to like the sort of scientific background to it, and a bit more about the actual effects on the body that a prep can have. So that's going to be good.
Yeah, and like Fiona, you know that you can probably talk about this. Like you've got the benefit of kind of having two of us talk to you about different things, and we have a very different approach on our check-ins, don't we? But Andrew's
so knowledgeable, like to have that. I think that's what makes him so unique as well, the fact that he's a doctor of nutrition. Like you can get a better diet in someone that knows so much about the whole process, right? Like to the, as you said, all the scientific things about it. Like he's amazing.
But sometimes I'm sitting, I'll be listening to Andrew talk about something in a really scientific term, and I'll go to him, I'll say to him over the computer, in layman's terms.
This one is deep in prep, and they may not be understanding what you're saying.
So like he's great because like he gets so passionate about it, but sometimes I'm like, what did he say?
What does that mean?
Love it.
Hold on, I get a dictionary.
Great though, because you do just get such a nice, like, diverse approach, and I think I'm looking forward to that one as well, Sarah. And for the listeners, that one's going to be kind of on the psychological and physiological effects of dieting on the female body from a more scientific perspective. So that's going to be really interesting for people.
Fiona, I think to end today would be a really good, I guess, summary of what we've spoken about already, but maybe for you to share a couple of things or one big thing that you'd give advice for a first timer, either going into a prayer pool, you know, they've already picked a show and they want to take their journey to the stage. Is there anything you could share? Your golden nuggets.
Some top tips. Top tips.
Stick to your program, do your training, train as hard as you can, lift as heavy as you
get
can,
as many striations as you can.
Just be determined and just focus on your goal, and if you really want it, like, you'll attack it, and just just
cool. And thank you so much for first of all the brain capacity this close to a show.
Anytime.
I mean,
I know, oh my god. So honestly, I've been struggling to get my words out recently, like, and working Monday because that was my last shift. It was difficult. I had to apologise a few times. I'm sorry, like, my brain is not functioning right.
This actually also
today I've done not bad.
Us, Steff, it's great, isn't it? Because like you said about getting Fiona on, when we scheduled it for a peak week, it was like, this is actually an awesome opportunity for people to understand it's not all the glam all the time. You know, there is points where it is really tough. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm going to get on stage in a bikini. So having you in peak week, even that commitment for you to come on is amazing.
And it's so true, because you probably look your worst before you look your best, and you probably feel your worst before you feel your best, if you know what I mean. Yeah, because like I've put rice cakes in my fridge. I've been looking for my rice cakes, and I'm like, where the hell is my rice cakes? And they're in the fridge, and then I've lost a charger, and I'm shouting at Jane. It's like I've plugged it in somewhere else, and just stupid things like that. I've had to apologise for. And then obviously, like, I normally have fake tan on, so I've been doing all my skin prep, so like I've not got tan on. Like I'm leaving my hair removal at the last minute, so I'm kind of white like a ghost, and I'm hairy. Like, it's not glamorous at all.
Struggle is real.
Obviously that'll come, but the wee bit time before it's like,
it's something to look forward to, mate.
Hoodie on.
I know. I remember. I know where you're at. And I think, like, because you're somebody who's kind of you're just positive. You're infectious.
Yeah.
Fiona's positivity is infectious, like literally infectious, and I love that about you. And I think for anybody who is interested in Fiona's journey, like, you should just go and check out some of her posts. She's really real about everything.
That's like, on my social media. I want to come across as me. Like, I want to be real, like, and just because that's the way I am in life. Like, what you see is what you get, and I want to come across like that on my socials. So if anybody ever wants to message me, feel free, and also believe what you're saying about being positive. Like, I believe it.
Yeah, I was going to just on a last note. Can I ask you a question about that on social media? So this is something I suppose, I don't know if we've covered it or not because we've spoken about it so much, but one of the biggest things for first timers is the comparison mindset. They keep comparing people online, looking at other people in their class. Oh my God, who's going to be at the show? How have you found that? And have you found it challenging at any point, like that kind of visual side of
So
things, and how have you
because
managed it
I've
if you
listened to you
have?
guys on your pods before and tips and all that, at show day and on the run up and things, and not to go on and look for people and things like that. And I've not done that. Like I've totally not done that because you're
Good
you
girl.
and like,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? Like and I've not, but I have came across people and it said like PC first timers underneath, and I'm like, oh my God. And it's hard not to compare yourself, but at the end of the day, like you're you, and like you just can, all you can do is your best, and whatever happens in the day happens. Like you just need to, everybody's different. You can never have the big codes like somebody else if you don't have them. Just, do you know what
That
I
might
mean?
come.
Like, well, you can eventually, but
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, there's no point in comparing yourself because somebody might have better legs, but you might have a better back, and like, there's no point. Like, and I'm just like, what will be, and
Yeah,
I just want to be myself and just go up there and just see what happens, really, and just enjoy it. Like I said, that's
it's
my
just
main
so
goal.
good, isn't it? So good to hear
yeah.
that from a first timer.
It is. It's amazing to hear that, and I think it's hard. It's a hard thing to say. Sorry, it's easy to say, but a hard thing to do sometimes when you're in the midst of a prep and you just want to be your best, and you do. We've all been there, haven't we? As females, where
Yeah,
you look at other people and you think, "Oh, I'm not good enough," or "Oh, I'm not this," or "I'm not that." But I think you've
Mm.
hit the nail on the head. You're you. You can't be anybody else. You've got to maximize what you
exactly.
have in this body here, and then progress from there. Go in and
Yeah,
then progress from
Yeah,
there, and that's all you can ask
yeah,
of yourself. And have the
yeah. And
best
like
time,
I like I
and have
said,
fun. Have fun.
like getting to the stage for me is a win. So, uh, like anything that happens after that is a bonus. But just getting there, and like I've already won in my eyes, so I just
so
want to enjoy
good,
it,
so
and like,
good.
yeah, that's it
Excitement
really.
is real. So Fiona, where can people find you on Instagram? What's your name on there?
It's
Hello.
Misfit Fee on Instagram. Yeah.
And
So, like I said, if anybody wants to message me
you're
anything,
happy to
feel
sort
free.
of talk to people if they have listened to something and maybe can relate, or
Yeah, yeah,
that's awesome.
anytime,
Especially while you've got this time off work now, mate.
anytime.
I know.
Yeah, I've got a wee bit of free time.
So have fun.
But thank you again. It's been really
Yay.
cool. Just taking it back to that, first timer mindset and all those things that you've been through that have equated to you successfully getting to the stage in 4 days. Brilliant stuff. And I can't wait to see both of you on
So
Instagram
exciting.
having it large.
Absolutely.
Can't wait.
All right.
And
So yeah.
you can see obviously Steff and I on Instagram as normal. And any questions like today with Nicole's question is really cool because we're getting a lot more momentum now with the pods and we just love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. We absolutely adore it. It's brilliant.
So share, share, share.
Share on stories,
Yay.
share on tags. Give us some love, people.
Share love. Thank you, Fiona. And
Anytime. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Rhoda,
having me
and
on.
see all our listeners next time.
see you later.